Welcome everybody. I'm Tom Matuska here with Brett Wingfield. We're here with the Matuska Taxidermy Supply Company and on our Thursday Live. And you know anything new about me?
No,
You don't know anything new? Cole Kirkshank was so good to help us out at the World Show, and we thought he was really doing us a big favor being there, and he was part of the crew, and he kind of ran a lot of the office stuff there and talked to customers.
Who's Cole Kirkshank?
Well, Cole Kirkshank is actually, he's a lot of things. He wears a lot of different hats. Cole Kirkshank's from Missouri, but we don't hold that against him.
Yeah,
Armadillo country, I noticed that. We counted 175 armadillos coming back from the World Show. Cole is a taxidermist, first of all. And a lot of you probably don't know this, but Cole Kirkshank's dad attended our taxidermy school before Cole was even born. And somehow it transferred down through the genes into his shoes. And Cole Kirkshank is now a taxidermist in his own right, and he is also a producer. And he produces Taxidermy University, Taxidermy U, how-to videotapes, and tell him some of the stuff he's got. He's got some really fabulous productions.
Why don't you open up your fanny pack and show us?
Okay, first of all, this is an oxymoron, because the fanny pack, I was getting to that, the fanny pack was an appreciation for letting him work for us, and he sent this as a thank you, I guess, or not, and it's a fanny pack with a belly button. Who ever heard of that?
That's a belly pack.
So if it's a fanny pack, I should be wearing it like this.
And it shouldn't have a belly
But
button.
I should have a belly button there. It maybe should have something else, but not a belly button. Anyway,
It looks pretty good on the...
promised him we would wear it for the live tonight. So that's what we
get
got.
off the bed.
So he has a crappie video,
Yep, that he did himself.
a turkey video,
That Blake Raminger did, third in the world with his turkey this year.
one of the hottest selling whitetail videos,
Yes, with Clint Rickey. Best in the world, Clint Rickey.
and I'm missing one,
molding and casting.
molding and casting
With
of reproduction fish.
Jimmy Lawrence.
Yep. And
And a bobcat one to come in July.
coming a Bobcat one that Cole's going to do. But any of these are exceptionally detailed. They're good. They're probably by far, bar none, the best how-to videos on the market.
Yeah, very good.
And I got them in here.
Because Mother's Day is over, so we hope everyone had a good Mother's Day, but Father's Day is right around the corner. Father's Day is June 16th, and these would make fantastic gift
And not only will your father like a Clint Rickey video, turkey video, any of these, he will also like something to put them in.
Brent would really like that, actually.
I don't know.
Brent might get it. It's a little embarrassing, let me tell you.
You just keep rocking it. Looks so good.
A belly button. Who would make a fanny pack with a belly button? It's even got hair and blood vessels on it.
That's what mine looks like right now.
Oh, don't say that.
Okay, today we're gonna try to take out some of the mystery of molding with silicone rubber, RTP silicone rubber, and we use it in our shop. Everybody's seen this? I'm gonna sit down now.
I bet they have. I bet they've seen all they want to see of it.
We use silicone rubber in our shop to almost on a daily basis, especially not only manufacturing supplies, but oftentimes we need things, and things that we can't buy or not willing to buy, or it'll take too long, you know, for one reason or another. And the taxidermists can make a lot of these products, and you can make products, you know, oftentimes better than what you can actually buy. And just to give you an example of different things that we use it for, we have a bald eagle for one of the nature centers to do, and just by taking the bald eagle head, skinned out bald eagle head, we position this in a paper cup, put the paper cup over, cut the bottom out, filled it full of RTB silicone rubber, and made a mold. By pouring a casting material into that mold, you get something like this. Look at the exceptional throat detail. Not bad, huh?
Really nice. Really, really nice.
And this bird's a flying bird. He's coming in. We made a mold of his feet.
Yeah, that's.
Look at the scale detail on the feet, the claws. Now this is white right now, but we'll paint it. I bet you Mr. Wingfield's going to use some pastels, and he's going to make that look just like a like real eagle foot. Look at the talons. You wouldn't want to be a rabbit.
Or a salmon.
Once we had a customer who wanted a European mount of his leopard skull, but he also wanted his leopard mounted. We took the real top of the leopard skull, sculpted in the top palette with clay, positioned it on a table, made a dam around it, poured it with RTV silicone rubber. When you pull it off of the real teeth, it looks like this. By pouring, and there's lots of different things you can make this. We're not even going to get into the casting today. We're going to get into, we're going to kind of just do the mold making first. We're going to try to keep this straight without confusing you, but it is confusing because there's a lot of products. By pouring a casting material in this, pulling it out, you have upper jaws of a leopard.
Very nice open mouth leopard.
This could be done with a beaver, a badger, a mongoose, anything.
Or a deer.
A deer. Brian Olson did this deer. This is exceptional. He made a rubber mold that we manufacture now in the supply company. I mean, look at the molars are exceptional. The papillae on the inside, roof of the mouth.
Very, very detailed.
Now this is all stuff you can do in your shop. What else do we have? Fish fins. This is a fish fin mold made out of RTV silicone rubber. And here are the fish fins pulled out of that mold. They're ultra thin, flexible. Trim them and paint them, attach them to your fish.
That one's got a hole in it.
I know, see that. Show them some of the stuff you got going over here.
We've got, staying in the family of deer, we've got a deer ear that we had made. We took made a mold of a real ear, and made the interior exterior and made this is how we made our
Plugs for our...
yeah, thank you. Our 200 WT.
I knew what you were trying to say.
I was getting there.
Struggle a little bit.
Rocks and habitat are a great one because rocks have a lot of undercuts, so silicone just lends itself to a great molding material for rocks. We use it all the time. There's another one. Back to deer, even a deer muzzle. Exceptional detail inside the nostril. Nice shape. So there's one there. And a fish head. This is kind of cool. This is a two-part mold, but this will include both the interior and exterior of the head. So the head was set up just as the bird head was. Tom described the bird head being set up vertically. Same thing with the fish head, like this. And then the head was allowed to set, and then we poured into the back side of the head. So now we have both the interior, or the exterior here, and we have the interior of the mouth here. We have some
And
nice
that's got the
detail.
tongue and everything in it.
Yeah. Tongues there, inside the bronchial osticle rays, lots of cool stuff. So you can do about anything with silicone that you really want to.
This is
Maybe
one
some
that
things you don't.
I don't know if you saw Amber's little bobcat that she did
Oh, yeah.
for the World Show, and thought that it would be an added touch to put ears on the sculpture. So she had the sculpture in clay. She took the ear cartilage off of the skin.
Yeah.
She shaped it, kind of shaped it over clay, poured one part, flipped the whole thing over, poured the other part, and she had a mold.
Exceptionally detailed.
I mean,
ears.
this is really detailed on the inside of the ear. This is the outside of the ear. Not perfect, it's gonna have some little wiggles and squiggles in it. She then poured, I think she did Bondo, didn't she, at that point? Put auto body putty in here, pressed it together, took it apart, took the part out, sanded it to perfection, and then she made another mold of that piece in which she made it out of one of our pouring resins. And then she painted it to match her clay, and it looked really, really nice, and it was the size of an ear for her bobcat sculpture.
Made a beautiful bobcat ear.
So a lot of our habitat things too that we make in the supply company. This is one of our big, I love these for fish. One of our driftwood kind of foam pieces actually. This is, we like to use our artificial wood because it's so lightweight. The girls can paint this up to look exceptionally real. You add a little bit of moss, a little bit of vines. You can add some, I mean the rocks right there, you can add something like, we have a lot of these little rock clusters. Wouldn't a big old pike or a muskie look really nice on that? But all of those are made out of RTB silicone roll molds. Here's another example. These are all 10-pound density foam, real strong, probably as hard as pine. There's a wood in the back for a hanger. It'll hold rods, threaded rods, wires, anything that you want. We have a lot of configurations of wood and branches and turkey branches and rock formations and our bobcat base. They can't keep in stock because it's, to be real honest, it's better than anybody's bobcat base out there. I mean, and it fits our bobcat. It's an exceptional piece of habitat. Any of these things, they take a lot of pride in painting. They paint those rocks individually, every single rock. Put a lot of attention into it. Or if you're the do-it-yourselfer, you can buy these in a base coat where they come out of the mold, they get a wash, and they look really good as they are, but you can put your own finishing touches on those. So, as we're talking about rubber, there's two different kinds of rubber that most taxidermists deal with, I think. For simplicity purposes, one's called a tin cure and one's called a platinum cure. And the tin cure, I've always termed it as user-friendly. It's you can buy tin cure RTB rubber, and the RTB is for room temperature vulcanization. And room temperature vulcanization means this rubber will cure all by itself at room temperature. If it were something like a tire, tires get baked. They don't cure without heat applied. So a lot of rubbers have to have heat applied. Room temperature RTB does not. It'll just cure right in your shop or in your house or anything like that.
It does require a catalyst, right?
It does, yes, good question. This is how it comes. You can buy different quantities, but it'll come in a gallon like this, and then there will be a catalyst like that. Now for some of you, I see somebody smiling back here, it's not because they couldn't all get it in here, they give you a little extra. This has to be measured out very carefully, and when you get these products, experiment with them. Don't get a one-of-a-kind bird head and not read directions and plug up his nostrils or do something that can't be reversed. So make sure that when you get any of these products, read directions from start to finish and practice with anything. There's a lot of different little trinkets you can make. I used to make the kids little toys when they were little. I'd take this stuff, never used it before, and I remember Mark needed a little crank for his digger Tonka toy that got broken, and I took the crank and I poured a 2-piece rubber mold and made a little Tonka toy crank. So there's a lot of different uses for these type of things. So anyway, tin cure, user friendly. It works well with moisture, right?
Yeah.
Different set times. Every company, there's 1,000 different companies out there, and our set time with this, it gives you plenty of time. It gives you probably 3 to 4 hours to work with it. Ours is a 20 shore, and the shore is the hardness. This is pretty flexible stuff. That's ours. It's 20 shore. I'm going to guess that this, and this was a platinum cure, this is, feel that, that's probably a 50 shore.
It's like a hockey puck.
A hockey puck might be about an 80 or 100 shore. The shore is the hardness. It's measured with a durometer. A durometer's a tool. Some people say, what's the durometer of your rubber? The durometer is a tool that measures the hardness. So you're getting your stuff mixed up a little bit. It's kind of like, what's the scale, that you weigh or something like that. You weigh in pounds. But anyway, so the shore is the softness. It's measured with a durometer. You're going to order it by kind of what you need. So you're going to go to a website, you're going to go to the catalog, or you're going to talk to different taxidermists that say you need something really soft, about a 15 shore or a 20 shore or something like that.
You have Mr. World Champion himself, Mr. Ricky, watching and
No,
saying hello.
great. Mr.
Saying
Rubber himself.
hello. Hey, Clint.
Clint is an authority on RTV rubber, so I'm pretty intimidated even talking about this stuff with him watching.
No.
Can you block him? Can you?
So before we get too far into it, with all the different molding options, when would you choose silicone versus Bondo versus plaster versus?
There's two kind of molds you're going to make. You're going to make a flexible mold. This is a flexible mold. Or you're going to make a rigid mold. And this was a rigid mold we made the other day with fish. This would be an example of a rigid mold. Now, if you have to get it off of something, for instance, if I had poured this in something rigid, I'd never get it out. It's too, I'd have broken the bill out, I'd have broken the nostrils out, the skull pieces. You can't, if there's any kind of detail or undercuts, rigid molds won't come out. Whereas flexible molds like this will. So you're going to have to look at the part, and you might have to get some advice along the way. Don't be afraid to call us or call a taxidermist that's used to working with this and say, here's my project, point me in a direction, because this is all very confusing. We're going to show you today how to make a mold out of RTV tin cure. I think it's probably a 20 shore RTV rubber. And that's what we use this all the time. We have to remold all of our habitat pieces. We have to remold bird heads, jaw sets, everything. This is our go-to all-around RTV rubber. And there's a few properties that we need to be concerned with. We need tear resistant strength. So tear strength is how much force can you put into it, pulling it apart like this. When we take the molds off of Corey's bird bills, we want those teeth to pull out without breaking off. Question in the back.
So Hunter Evans is saying, do y'all offer a rubber with a very high tear resistance? This RTV silicone molding
It's
rubber.
got a great tear resistance, and that's like I said, we made morel mushrooms, and you want it to pull all the way out of those little recesses in the morel mushroom. This is a rubber that'll do that. It handles the teeth of the ducks really, really good. Works good on our fins. We make fin molds. Anytime you have a pretty good undercut or are worried about tear strength, that's...
With your catalyst, the more you put in, the harder it gets.
To a point, a little.
So when is too much too much?
We've never done that. I think you hurt the integrity of the rubber.
Yeah.
Follow directions. So if I had, this is enough catalyst for this. Our rubber is catalyzed by 10%. So if you do 12 ounces of rubber, you're going to weigh it out, and you're going to put in 1.2 ounces of catalyst. If you wanted to fudge that up to 1.5, I wouldn't have a problem doing that. If you wanted to go a little higher, I wouldn't have a problem doing that. But don't waste it, and I think you're going to hurt the integrity of the rubber by putting too much in. I think kind of like auto body putty. You put too much hardener in auto body putty, and it gets brittle and crumbly.
Jig and Jim wants to know if you can do a class on molding and casting.
This is it.
Stay
He's
tuned,
watching.
Jig and Jim. You're in it, and I think you said it's going to have about five.
We will.
five
This
series.
is kind of complicated, and we keep going off in little tangents here, and I don't want to confuse anybody. So we're going to keep it simple with one product today, and we're even going to do a little demonstration and show you how to use it.
And next
how
week's
we-
going to be continued.
Yes, and then we'll continue. We'll probably next week maybe go into the casting part, maybe. We'll even show you some platinum cure rubbers and maybe some more complicated.
Jackie wants to learn how to cast a bass head.
Oh, what kind of bass?
Yep.
We can do it. We can do it all. All right, now, this rubber is probably as you pour it out of the container, and every rubber is different. The viscosity, there's a lot of terms you're going to want to become familiar with. The viscosity is how pourable it is. That's probably not the scientific term, but to me, if you pour it out real easy, the viscosity is pretty thin. If it's a thick viscosity or heavy viscosity, you tip it upside down and it doesn't come out. If it doesn't come out, you have to mix your catalyst in really good. If it's a thick viscosity, you're trapping air bubbles in, and it's going to take a pressure or a vacuum chamber to get the air bubbles out of your rubber. So we're going to show you how to do that too. Ours, the bubbles, because it's a slow set time and because it's a thin viscosity, the bubbles typically will float out to the top without a lot of entrapment.
A tuna tail. Which product would you use to cast a tuna tail?
I would make a 2-piece mold of that tuna tail. So I would take the tuna tail and I would embed it in a bedding material of some sort. Like you could use sand. If any of you have high fiber, you could use high fiber. That's been taken off the market because we think it's asbestos. We're good though. Anytime it works really good, there's something wrong with it. But I would embed that tuna tail halfway, put little mold keys in, dam it up somehow, pour. Why are you smirking at me? Am I saying?
No,
I would pour our rubber over the top, flip it, take off your bedding material, wash it up really good, put a mold release. So now you're going to have it upside down. You're going to have tuna tail embedded in half your rubber. I would pour the other half of rubber. When it sets up, I would pull it apart. That's if you're going to use this rubber. Tuna tail is also very, very symmetrical. So you could make a hard mold out of it like this, which would be considerably cheaper. A lot of times, if cost is an issue, you're going to want to really evaluate,
Because the rubber doesn't last as long as your Bondo fiberglass stuff.
Rubber cannot last as long sometimes. This has been around for 30 years and will still pour apart as good as ever, and it's platinum cure. This has been around a couple years. It probably won't, and it's tin cure. That's another thing with tin cure. You will not be able to get as many parts out of it. Another term you're going to want to be really going to confuse them, aren't we? Another term you're going to want to be familiar with is library life. If you make a mold like this out of tin cure RTV, library life means I pour some fins today, I set it on the shelf for 6 months, I pull it down, I pour another set of fins, set it on the shelf for 6 months. This mold is probably only going to last a year and a half. Whereas if I kept making them one after another, after another, after another, I could probably get 150 sets of fish fins, but that's because I keep making them. Library life is when you store it and don't use it. Platinum cure, like this one, platinum cure.
Cole says you look so sexy in that thing.
Hair and blood vessels and a belly button and everything.
Oh, it
I'm
looks
telling
so
you.
good. Okay.
But did I tell you? Good place to store your tapes.
Yep. Father's Day, right around the corner. We have a couple questions here. Let's see. First, Jesse Wells, what did you use on the ear that you were telling us about in class? That would have been your 200 probably.
ear.
I told you a lot of things in class.
That was probably a tin cure rubber. I would think we would have poured a silicone mold of any ear.
You're gonna have to be more specific at my age.
Diana and Jig and Jim are talking about pressure pots. Can you show your high fiber for molding?
Nope, high fiber is no more.
No more.
We don't
And
want
do
to
you
get
always
too
need a
away.
pressure pot for competition parts?
Kinda yes and kinda no. There's two instruments that we make use of here. First of all is the vacuum chamber, and that will suck the air out of your rubber. Some people use a pressure pot for that also, and what it does, I think, is compress the air bubbles so you have minimal voids in this. When we take our rubber, which we'll show you a little bit later.
He's talking your own ear.
Pardon me?
Your own ear.
Oh,
Funny boy. But when you put a container of rubber in the vacuum chamber and turn it on and pull a vacuum down to 29 inches of mercury, it will actually bubble as the air is escaping. So we use a vacuum chamber for the rubber. We use a pressure pot to get bubble-free casts.
yeah.
And there's different terms you're going to want to know. This is the mold, or the negative. This is the cast, or the positive. So it's a lot like photography. You have a negative, and you have your print. Now, do I have them really confused?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's, any more questions there?
Nope, you're good.
Keep going.
Yep.
Most of these rubbers come in different colors. Every company has a different color. I think that way you know that this one is, just by looking at it, is maybe a 20 shore, you know that's a 15. Without even looking at it, I know that's probably a 40. You know, just the different colors. They'll have numbers, like a 148 RB or something like that. They'll have different numbers. So if you have a bunch of molds laying there, you kind of know if you want a hard one or a soft one or whatever it happens to be.
Typically, the color is the catalyst.
Yeah, most often that's what colors the rubber. The rubber, any of the rubber I've ever had is white.
Yeah.
Now there are rubbers that are equal, A and B, correct? We don't use those very often, but you just had some the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, and they're transparent. They also make a transparent one.
And there's a lot of different, people with fish fins and things like that that want to see how their fish fin's doing inside of the block. There are clear ones where you can put your rubber together, put your resin in there, and you can actually see. You can see bubbles, you can see colors, you can see all kinds of different things.
If you were to make since you had to make a cut, a relief cut, it might be nice to know it might be nice to know where the part is, so you knew where you're making your cut. That might be a nice use for a transparent.
So there's all kinds of different uses, and like you're going to have to weigh, like somebody was asking about the tuna tail, you're going to have to weigh how many of these are you going to make. If I want to make a whole bunch of them and I'm going to go into production, I maybe would make a tuna tail out of something like this. Then I would take it, make it perfect, fill every little bubble in it, things like that. Then I might spend the money to make a good rubber mold. A lot of these companies that make fiberglass fish, they will make a Bondo mold like this first to get a part off. Then they will take that fish that they make out of here and they will finish the seam and they will make it beautiful. And then they will spend the money to make a silicone rubber mold out of probably platinum cure, because it's gonna, the library life's good and they're gonna get more parts out of it. And they can then make a production mold where they can make these one after another, after another, after another.
What mold, how do you decide on mold release? Which to use?
Between, now so far we're not getting into mold releases, and there's a whole big array of them. That's as confusing as all of this. Right now we're only going to make a rubber mold So the ones we're making, a rubber RTV mold will pull off of anything. It will pull off. This basically sticks to nothing except itself. It can stick to itself. So if you're having a two-piece mold like this, you would want something on this edge. And there's different mold releases that you can spray on. There's different waxes. There's a whole big array. You can take soap, you can take wax, and that would keep this from sticking, that you can pull it apart like that and break it apart. But basically, this RTV silicone rubber doesn't stick to anything. You can peel it off of anything, really.
Does painting depend on what mold release you use?
Yes. And we're going to show you, next week we'll show you a whole lot of different mold releases, and some you can paint and some you can't. You'll notice that bird heads, any of you that buy duck heads, commercial duck heads, a lot of companies will tell you the first thing you want to do is wash them down in lacquer thinner, because there is a mold release on those parts. There will be a mold release between this and that. There was not a mold release between this and the real one. But there's a lot of mold releases that work really well for painting and some that don't work very well for painting. And ours work wonderful for painting. Ours do not have a mold release on them. What else? Questions? Nothing? Should we do something?
No, show us.
All right.
Show us the way.
Let's clean some of this up here. You keep talking while we're...
Shout out to David McLean for his awesome recommendation. He says that Matuska Taxidermy is his first choice when looking for supplies. Matuska Taxidermy has great prices and selection with fast and affordable shipping, and the staff is very helpful and friendly. They will go the extra mile to ensure they understand what you need to complete your projects. Great place to do business, and the candy with every order.
Thanks, David.
Yes.
Wow. We so appreciate you.
Dave McLean was one of our most creative taxidermists ever. He came through the 9-week class, then he re-enlisted
For the
advanced class, and he was a little bit of a genius and very creative. Very creative.
Before you hide the syringes, we do have new in-stock inventory of 3 sizes of syringes. We carry the syringe, the 1cc with the needle and without, and we now are carrying the 3cc. And then we also have a 35cc, which, what did you say you're going to use that for? Hide?
Hide paste, I thought would be a good thing.
Yeah. So there's the 35. This is the 3cc without a needle. And this is the 3cc that comes with the needle. And this is probably a 25 gauge needle in that 3cc. 24, 25.
I think it was 20. I think it was 25. Yeah.
So you won't see these in the catalog, but you will see them online, or you can ask the ladies on the phone and they will help direct you. They come in 6-packs, and the big one comes single or 6-pack.
Goes great with the new master's plan.
Okay.
Jig and Jim says, how about pouring molten lead?
Because he's making jigs is what he's doing.
Ah. He also says Matuska is becoming my only supply company. That a boy, Jim. That's how we like it.
Okay, we're going to do something kind of simple, just to get you. This is just a practice thing. You want to become familiar with these products. Don't use them on something that can't be replaced. You know, I mean, practice and ease into this stuff in baby steps. Buy a gallon of the RTV tin cure. Is a safe, user-friendly one. We sell a great tin cure that we use for all of our habitat things, but there's lots of companies out there. There's Reynolds, there's Smooth On, there's 1,000 different companies. If you Google RTV rubbers, you're gonna have 20 different companies to choose from. So get a gallon and find something that you want to make and practice with it a little bit. And you'll learn very, very fast. Okay, something that we did years ago, and we use these on all of our mountain goats and things like mounts like that, is icicles. And we used to take real icicles, we would dip them in hot wax, pull them out real quick. The frozen icicle, harden that molten wax really fast. Then we would take that wax mold now, dump out the water because the icicle has melted, and we would fill it full of clear resin. When it set, we would take it over to the hot water in the sink, and we would wash off the wax, and out would come a perfect icicle made from a real icicle. But to make enough for a mountain goat base took a lot of icicles, and it was a one-time deal. After that, we discovered, God, we can make these out of rubber and not out of wax, and we don't need real icicles. The way we do this is take oil-based clay. Now, anytime you're working with RTV rubber, you're going to want to watch your clay, right?
Yes.
Tell them about clays.
So some of the sculpting clays, the oil-based sculpting clays, are sulfonated, and some of them are not. You would need the tin cure rubber is not going to be picky. You can use basically any oil-based clay with the tin cure rubber. With a platinum cure, you have to be sure your clay or your sculpture, whatever it is that you're molding, is a non-sulfonated clay. Very, very important. We learned that the hard way on one of our mother molds that we made.
Ooh, I remember.
Yeah, it made a mess. Yeah, and we are constantly learning. There are experts out there that do this stuff all the time and have all kinds of products in front of them. We found some that work really well for us, and when we get a new one, it does take a little bit of experimenting, and we try something like this just to make sure that we've got our process down before we get too involved in it.
Now, icicles I kind of think about the icicles you're doing it. They can be lumpy, they can be, twisty, they can be all different kinds of shapes. So don't make them perfectly. We just took oil-based clay, rolled it out. Now, you need some kind of vessel to hold your rubber. So we're just going to take a paper cup. I want to make sure I don't bottom out there. I took these upholstery pins, and that's going to be my little holder. And we'll see if that'll support that, and it does real well. So here's what's down in my cup. Now, if you're going to make, this is just an experiment, I'm not making a production mold or anything like that. The last good icicle mold that I did, I had like 6 or 8 various size icicles in a little container, and when we poured them all, and we'd pour a whole lot of them out of casting resin.
I cut your head off, is that okay?
Hello.
You got rid of his belly too.
Yeah, I see,
See that? I got belly button was too much for me, Cole.
At least it wasn't the other direction.
Yeah. All right. Something like that. Now, could you give me about that much rubber?
From here?
Yeah, the big white container. All right, now, first thing you want to do, especially with small amounts, you're going to want to zero your scale. This is just like a postage scale, goes up to 30 ounces. Some of these rubbers are extremely critical on the amount of rubber catalyst ratio, so you want to be a little careful. Okay, now that cup weighs 1 full ounce. So by turning this dial, most scales you can zero it. So that takes into account my cup. That should do. You good? Okay, now Brett was kind enough to fill that up. Now see, here's the viscosity. See how it's pretty runny. Okay, I have 19 ounces of RTV Tin Cure Platinum Rubber. So I'm going to put in
1.9.
Good girl.
Right.
10% of that is 1.9. Now, be careful because some people think 2 pounds, they're going to put in 2 ounces. 2 pounds is 32. It's going to be 3.2. So be a little careful. That's why you want to practice a little bit. We want 1.9. Take a little paper cup. You can zero that again. We're going to go, if you want to go 2 with this, that'll be fine.
And the more catalyst you put in, the harder it's going to get. So if you
It'll get a little harder and cure a little faster. Okay, I've got 19 ounces, 1.9. Mix it in here. Now, like I said, our rubber cures in, you got a full 2 hours, probably 3 hours before you can't work with it anymore. Now I'm just going to stir it.
And these are, you're measuring this by weight, right? These aren't liquid ounces. This is a weight measurement.
By weight.
So they could measure in grams as
And
well.
find out, you know, there may be different companies may advise different things.
Lorianne Navarro wants to know if a vacuum chamber is required to mold and cast the bird heads.
I would, because it's going to give you rubber with no bubbles that will not get up into your teeth and things like that.
Because the bubbles can actually go outwards as well in your rubber.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
where
yes,
when
yes.
you cast it, what do you call
Now, what you don't want any marbling in here. So as I'm stirring, I got a nice minty color, and I use these stir sticks over and over and over. The rubber will peel off, and you can use them again and again. And make sure you scrape the bottom, not through the bottom, Jacob. Okay, now we got plenty of time. And if you spill this, if you get it where you don't want it, don't wipe it up. Let it harden. You can spill this whole counter, this whole cup over here and let it harden overnight. And tomorrow morning, grab the end of it, pull it all off, comes off, slick as a whistle. So don't worry about spills or getting it on things you didn't want to get it on. Okay, now we're going to put it in the vacuum chamber again on a simple mold like these clay icicles. You would not need to vacuum this. That bubbles, this stuff is thin enough that the bubbles will float to the top. But for intricate molds and for foolproof molding, vacuum chamber is pretty nice. This vacuum chamber I bought a long time ago, and it's pretty simple. It's a, let me get the tools off of here. It's a piece of PVC, I would say union, where you put big PVC pipes together. It's got a rubber, this is a piece of Lexan. Lexan is what the Popemobile's windshields are made of, bulletproof. This is a rubber gasket. So down on the table, I have a piece of Lexan, rubber gasket. This connector sits on there. Rubber gasket goes on here. I'm going to take my mixed RTV, put it in there, put the lid on. I have a valve that I'm going to close. You can come around here and see that dial. I close that valve. This is a vacuum pump, a gassed vacuum pump. It's kind of wearing out. It needs to be replaced. I've had it for years. But the model number, and I would buy this one again, is RAA-V111-EB. E is in elephant, B is in big elephant. Now you can watch this dial. Like I said, my pump is kind of getting old, but you see that needle, and it's going to go all the way around to the 30, and that's inches of mercury. It's pulling a vacuum. I think a perfect vacuum is 29 inches of mercury, and we're just going to let that run all the way around till it gets to there. Top of my Lexon is kind of dirty, but as it gets pulling the vacuum really well, you'll see that actually bubbling in there. And it'll take, when my pump is new, and I'm sure you can rebuild these pumps, you can get them on eBay used real easily too, but when the pump's new, it takes about a minute and a half to do this. Now it takes about 5 just because it's wearing out. So we're going to let that run. Would you give me a ruler and I'll show them how much that sucks in? If you can't tell if your vacuum pump's running or not, take a straight edge, and if you'll back off and get eye level, look at how far my top of my Lexon, which is an extremely stiff, half-inch, almost 3/4 inch plastic, look at how far the lid has sunk down. Okay, and we're about to bottom out our scale. Now we're going to shut it off, and we're just going to let that sit while we make sure that everything with our mold is ready to go. Any last minute things. Like I said, this is a 3-hour set, or 3-hour working time, so I don't have to be in a hurry. Whatever you are making a mold of, make sure you dam it up really good, because if this stuff starts leaking out, it's pretty hard to plug a hole.
Yes. That's why a cup, a solid container, is kind of nice.
These
when
work
you get a
really well.
chance. Yeah.
I'll show you while we're waiting another one I did. This is one I did yesterday, and we're going to take this one apart for you. I just took a handful of coins, put them on a board. This is printer's tin. We get it from newspaper shop, right?
Used printer's tin,
Yeah. And I made a little circle. I took hot glue and I glued it down to this little piece of melamine. All the coins are in there, and we just filled it up with rubber yesterday so we could take it apart and show you today. It's kind of fun because we did this once, and then we took the rub-on paints and we took a little Q-tip and painted all the different coins. The pennies were copper colored, and the quarters were nice and silver, and the dimes were shiny, and laid them down, and people are always coming up trying to pick a coin off of there, and it's all plastic. It's pretend. Okay, and I would leave this in here for, I'd say, about 5-6 minutes. It doesn't take very long, especially with this thin of rubber. If it were real thick, heavy viscosity, you could leave it in 10-15 minutes. Just make sure that your working time, you're not taking away from working time that you need. So now that we've degassed it, I'm going to open the valve, and that'll allow me to get the lid off.
Would you ever pour it in first and then put the whole thing?
Yes, we do that too. Anytime I make bird heads, I will do that.
So you double vacuum it.
Double vacuum it, or just one time at the end?
I would vacuum this. Now I didn't leave this in long enough. You can see all the air in there still.
Because you'd think by pouring it, you'd get more bubbles again.
You're supposed to pour it very little strands like this. Like little is your best.
Oh my gosh, we don't have time for that.
I'll go faster for you.
Idea being that small thin ribbon, if you watch, those bubbles are starting to tear
Got
as
it.
they fall down that ribbon. So the slower you pour, it also it allows air to escape, pushes air out as it rises.
Now, a little secret is that the first time we ever made an icicle mold, you can't get clay out of this. It breaks and tears, and if that clay breaks and tears way down in the bottom, you got clay down there and it's ruined. So one time there's this really, really, really smart person, and he thought, I wonder if you put it in the freezer, and if you put it in the freezer, those little clay-shaped icicles come right out.
Who's that smart person?
Me.
Tap you on your shoulder for you.
After I ruined a couple.
Now you might have them watch for marbling.
Yeah,
See
and
just
here
a
we
little
got,
bit.
I see some kind of marshmallow streaks in here.
What happens if you get marbling and don't catch it?
You could have soft spots in your mold. You'll want to watch.
And what happens if you didn't mix it good enough or you didn't follow the directions?
You might be doing it again.
Or you
Hope
might
you
have
get it out.
ruined your...
You might have ruined
Might
your
have
master.
ruined your-
If this stuff doesn't set up, the master it depends what your master is made of. If it was clay, it could be a real mess. Now, this, we're going to just set aside, and it's going to cure just like that. I'll take it down to the freezer before next live, and we will pull those little icicles right out, and we'll show you how to make them.
And the reason you're putting it in the freezer is because it's clay.
So the clay doesn't tear.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't need to do that step.
I will make sure that it works before we show you on live so I can do it over.
That's not...
And we will cure
genuine.
this. Talking about the freezer, some people will make a mold in the freezer. That's really not what you're intending to do. You're going to
Right,
cure
correct.
this.
And
at
you've done
room
that, right?
temperature.
You did that?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Tell them that.
Only did that because the part that I had set up was flesh, and so I wanted to freeze it.
Like a deer nose.
Yep, I wanted to freeze it and make sure that it would hold its shape, and then we wanted to pour it so it stayed frozen. And you do the same thing. You could do that with a fish head. You could do it with anything that you wanted to keep its shape, any organic part. I mean, there's a learning curve to all of that, and I'd be very careful. I had some great advice in order for me to get that done. But
Now, like I said, I just did this yesterday. I've done it before. It's just kind of a fun little practice thing. So we had printer's tin. That's what this is. And it works good for damming up molds. You could use cardboard, you could use plastic, anything. I hot glue around the edge, or you could caulk something so it doesn't leak out. And then I'm going to attempt to pull this out. Now my money,
what if the FBI is watching?
they might be. I'm making fake money.
I think they call that counterfeit.
Okay, now you have to trim
Fake
this up a
cluster
little
will be
bit.
found online for sale.
Now I'll have to go in and get some of these little tags cut out of there. It's gonna look, I think, I'll bet that you could even, it'll pick up the detail, you can even read the date. If
Oh yeah,
I see a 90, I see a penny with a 93 in it.
So you're using our silicone molding rubber is what you're using. And one of the things with our casting stuff and our Facebook Live, we actually have on our website our Facebook Live featured products. And we are offering, after every live through Friday, 15% off the products talked about. So they can purchase this RTV silicone molding rubber for 15% off through tomorrow. So take advantage of that. The code is FBLive15, and you can either plug it in the website or call the ladies, and they will help you with that. And you can also see, for now on, all the products talked about. You can go to one spot and find it.
and that's our newly updated website, isn't it?
It is.
with, what's it got? What's it called? The website has easy order? It's got
The quick order
quick
form.
order.
Yes.
It's got some
Easy
kind of
order
feature.
sounds good too, yeah. Quick order, you just plug in if you already know your item numbers. And I was reading something when you were talking,
Oh.
sorry, not to make you. If you already know your item numbers, a lot of people use the same products over and over, so that's one thing that they can just go and type in.
Now I would just trim all these little tags off of here. Scalpel would be better. Trim those all off, and next week we'll make one of these for you, and we'll show you how to make icicles. We'll show you how to make this. We'll maybe make a muzzle for them or something like that. We've got different things we'll show you. So for right now, what you learned today is Tin Cure RTV silicone rubber. One product, that's all you gotta remember.
User friendly.
User friendly, ours catalyzes at 10%. Every company may be a little different. 10% is the norm, I think, for tin cures.
And that would give them, we told them it would give them a working time of about 3 hours. When can they demold it? How long is that gonna take?
Usually overnight, to be safe overnight.
And you can feel it. You'll know if it's soft, the next day you're gonna wanna let it sit a little longer.
Another thing we have done, if you didn't feel it was quite ready, you can put this in the oven for a couple hours at 150, 60 degrees, 170.
Don't forget it.
Don't forget it. Smells up the kitchen. But anyway, you can cure this, and you're actually vulcanizing a rubber that doesn't need to be vulcanized, and it'll set it up faster for you. But Tin Cure rubber, very easy to use. It's a good entry level. We still use it like to make all of our habitats. We use a lot of different rubbers here, but I think we use this one 90% of the time.
Absolutely.
Can't go wrong. Million uses.
Pretty clear.
If you wanted to make your own bird heads, shoot a duck, skin out the head, make sure it's very, very fresh. Super glue that little duck head on a surface, cut out the bottom of a paper cup, stick it down. I like to hot glue around them because they stick. You can caulk it, fill it up with rubber. I usually super glue their bills shut. You might want to plug their nostrils too because the nostrils go all the way through. And you can make your own bird head. How do we do?
I think
Good. They want to see fish fins and fish heads.
We can show them fish fins next time. And next time we're going to show you the pressure pot.
so. We're gonna show them casting next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you show it, and we'll probably go over platinum cure too,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
And we'll show you casting and the different resins. Oh, hold it. One more thing I was going to show you.
We also make sure you're sharing the video because we do have our giveaway winner to announce yet. So make sure to share the video.
A lot of these companies have resources like this for you to feel, and you can feel how hard of a rubber do I want. We have some rubbers that are very, very hard. We have some rubbers that are very, very soft, and they will tell you whether they're, this one is called tinsel, this one's called platinum, and here's the casting materials down there. If you want one clear, if you want one white, if you want one, whatever color you want.
How do you decide the hardness of what you're molding against what you're going to use? Is there certain?
Well, for fish fins, you discovered if this one works pretty good, but if this is too soft, like say 50, like if this were this type of a softness,
Yeah.
and you put your resin in there and make your cast, and if you lay it on the side, this could be so soft that it bows in, and your fish fins, right side and left side touch, creating an air void in them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if you use something very, very hard, like one of these, they're kind of stiff, but they're still flexible enough to get them off, still flexible enough to seal really good. And this is a little bit of an experimentation game. You're gonna get one and try it, and you think, oh, I wished it was harder, softer, bluer, greener, whatever. There's a lot of different choices. what's interesting when you start calling around to all these companies, they're all basically supplied by one source or two sources, mostly Chinese. So expect the price of your rubber to go up a lot.
Our last week winners for sharing, so make sure you share the video and then comment, because some people, you have your settings to private, so we can't see if you shared it, so you want to make sure you comment, share it, so we know you did it. But last week's winner, we picked 2, so the first one to chime in will get the giveaway. Otherwise, it'll go to a live viewer. But Larry Lampert or Richard Hollins, whichever one of you is watching, let us know.
And what do they win?
What did you pick?
A shirt.
A shirt. So one of our
taxidermy shirt.
Yep. One of our taxidermy shirts. So we'll let you know on that. But Larry Lampert or Richard Hollins, tune in. And then you have a question about, Russell wants to know if we're going to be at the Oklahoma Taxidermy Show. And we are not going to be at the Oklahoma Taxidermy Show.
I want to be.
But is our competitor for?
I honestly would have to look.
Richard Hollins is watching.
Oh. Lucky. Awesome. The Nebraska show is actually our next show. And the Nebraska show is June 13th and 15th, and you are going, and you are taking pre-orders.
Oh my goodness.
I'm asking. So give us a call for that. Oklahoma does have our professional award, so look out for that. Nebraska has our master's award.
Incidentally, speaking of those awards, those are made much the same way.
Oh yeah,
They were sculpted in oil-based clay by Amber Ingalls. And once it was sculpted, we made because of the softness of the rubber, we made a mother mold, and we'll maybe go over mother molds with you next week, because that's another complicated little thing. And then it was poured in our tin cure rubber, and that's how those are made.
Very cool.
She sculpted them, she pours them, she paints them. Joe makes the walnut bases, and the engravings for them are bought.
Very cool.
As far as shows goes, we have the Nebraska show next, and then Nationals is July 25th and 27th, which we're going to that and taking pre-orders. So for those that want to save on shipping and know what you want, take advantage of the discount and get your orders pre-ordered to make sure that we have it, because we're not going to be bringing as much as the world.
It's
to this
very
one.
interesting because I have given the business seminar to some of these associations, and I always say I'm the best person to do it because I am the poorest businessman there is. So whatever I say, don't do as I do. Don't do as I say. But one thing we go over in there is these people that take advantage of the free shipping to the show and the 15% off. We go to the Wisconsin show, and there are taxidermists over there that buy, I don't know what we'd say, 40 to 60 forms. They save in shipping alone hundreds and hundreds and
And they're in the
hundreds of dollars.
speedy zone.
Yeah.
That's not even a FedEx person.
So,
that's speedy.
so you know that we're coming to Nebraska, you know that we're coming to the Nationals. Get your capes out and measured, and we bring them to you.
A lot of people bank on us having stuff at the shows, and then they're disappointed when we don't have it there and they have to order it. So if you know you need something or going to order something, just order it and have it ready for you, and then look around and extra stuff you'll pick up there. But definitely take advantage of that. The other thing, speaking of the Wisconsin show, they changed their date. So for all of you that are used to going to the Wisconsin show, I think it's usually the third week of February every single year, they have moved it to February 27th through March 1st in 2020. So make sure you plan that accordingly, because that's new for them. Texas show, James, is on our list to go to at some point, but not this year.
2020.
In 20 something.
Yeah. Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania, and Michigan, and Missouri, and all. We want to go to them all. We need travelers that are pregnant. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody.
Remember, everything they talked about today, plus a couple more molding stuff, is for sale. 15% off through tomorrow on our website. You can find it on our featured products, and or call the ladies and they will walk you through anything. If you have questions, you can give us a call 1-800-488-3256 or visit us online at www.matuskataxidermy.com. And if you don't have our beautiful pheasant catalog, let us know your address and we will get you on the list and get one out. I think we have a bulk mailing going out here shortly. So if you've already requested one, it's coming. But thanks for tuning in, and you can go back and watch all of our videos on our Facebook page. And we now have them on YouTube.
And if you've been, go to our website and look at the great fish reproductions for the specialty class.
Oh, yeah.
We have 4 students that are doing some reproductions, and Brett's been walking them through the painting process, and man, they're fabulous. They're fabulous.
Hold up that catalog behind there. That's Northwest Iowa School of Taxidermy. So if any of you are interested in doing taxidermy, Northwest Iowa School of Taxidermy offers a few different courses that you can take. We are VA approved, which is awesome for all our veterans. Again, give us a call 1-800-488-3256 and go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, watch our videos. We do it every Thursday at 4:30.
And for veterans that are interested, years ago, the VA did not take care of the veterans like they do now. Now they set them up really nice and provide an exceptional education for them and take advantage of those VA benefits.
As they should be, yeah. Your housing and supplies are pretty much covered for it. So
even
give
the
us a
advanced
call.
class, some of our veterans have taken the advanced class, and learn a lot more.
Share the video if you didn't have time to watch it today. You can watch it throughout the weekend and next week. We won't pick our shared winner until next Thursday. So make sure to share away so you can be in the chance to win. We'll catch you next week.
Got it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.